ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 20, Text number 38. Prahasya bhava ghambiram chigrantyatmanamatmana kantya sasarja bhagavan gandharvap apsaram ganan. Translation purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. With a laugh full of deep significance, the worshipful Brahma then evolved by his own loveliness, which seemed to enjoy itself by itself, the hosts of Gandharvas and Apsaras. With a laugh full of deep significance, the worshipful Brahma then evolved the hosts of Gandharvas and Apsaras. Purport. The musicians in the upper planetary systems are called Gandharvas, and the dancing girls are called Apsaras. After being attacked by the demons and evolving the form of a beautiful woman in the twilight, Brahma next created Gandharvas and Apsaras. Music and dancing employed in sense gratification are to be accepted as demoniac. But the same music and dancing, when employed in glorifying the Supreme Lord as Kirtana, are transcendental, and they bring about a life completely fit for spiritual enjoyment. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakrurunmalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Please repeat the translation. With a laugh full of deep significance, the worshipful Brahma then evolved by his own loveliness, which seemed to enjoy itself by itself, the hosts of Gandharvas and Apsaras. So how Brahma goes into his next creation of Gandharvas and Apsaras is mentioned here. That the Gandharvas and Apsaras, they evolved by his own loveliness, which seemed to enjoy itself by itself. So from Brahma's appreciation of his own beauty, he brought forth the hosts of Gandharvas and Apsaras. So in other words, different kinds of living entities had to be filled. The universe had to be filled with the different kinds of living entities, and that was Brahma's task. So various pastimes through which Brahma creates this, just like the previous one, Brahma's how the demons were behind the twilight, how he created the demons, and how the demons started to attack him. And now it's about Apsaras and Gandharvas. So it goes on like this, how different living entities were filled all over the universe. The Pitas, Sadhyas, like that it goes on next, few verses which we can finish tomorrow altogether, many verses. Next. Or we can just finish it today. All small ones. So, text 39. Visasarjatanum tam vai jyotsnyam kanti matim priyam taeva chadadhu pritya vishwa vasu purogamaha. After that, Brahma gave up that shining and beloved form of moonlight. Vishwa, Vasu and other Gandharvas gladly took possession of it. Next. Shishtva bhuta pishachamscha bhagavan atmatandrina digvasaso muktakeshan vikshachamillayadrisho. The glorious Brahma next evolved from his sloth, the ghosts and faints. But he closed his eyes when he saw them stand naked with their hair scattered. Purport. Ghosts and mischievous hobgoblins are also the creation of Brahma. They are not false. All of them are meant for putting the conditioned soul into various miseries. They are understood to be the creation of Brahma under the direction of Supreme Lord. Jagrustat vrishtam tam jarabhana kyam tanum prabho nidram indriya vikledho yaya bhuteshu drishyate yeno chistan darshayanti tam unmadham prachakshate. The ghosts and hobgoblins took possession of the body thrown off in the form of yawning by Brahma, the creator of the living entities. This is also known as sleep, which causes drooling. The hobgoblins and ghosts attack men who are impure, and their attack is spoken of as insanity. Purport. The disease of insanity or being haunted by ghosts take place in an unclean state of existence. Here it is clearly stated that when a man is fast asleep and saliva flows from his mouth and he remains unclean, ghosts then take advantage of his unclean state and haunt his body. In other words, those who drool while sleeping are considered unclean and are subject to be haunted by ghosts or to go insane. Text 42. Yurjasvantam manyamana atmanam bhagavanajaha sadhyan ganan pitrganan parokshena srujat prabho. Recognizing himself to be full of desire and energy, the worshipful Brahma, the creator of the living entities, evolved from his own invisible form, from his navel, the hosts of Sadhyas and Pitas. The Sadhyas and Pitas are invisible forms of departed souls, and they are also created by Brahma. Ta atmasargham tam kayam pitaraha pratipedhire sadhyebhyascha pitrubhyascha kavayo yadvitanvate. The Pitas themselves took possession of the invisible body, the source of their existence. It is through the medium of this invisible body that those well-versed in the rituals offer oblations to Sadhyas and Pitas in the form of their departed ancestors on the occasion of Shraddha. Purport. Shraddha is a ritualistic performance observed by the followers of the Vedas. There is a yearly occasion of 15 days when the ritualistic religionists follow the principle of offering oblations to departed souls. Thus, those fathers and ancestors who, by freaks of nature, might not have a gross body for material enjoyment, can again gain such bodies due to the offering of Shraddha oblations by their descendants. The performance of Shraddha or offering oblations with prasada, still current in India, especially in Gaya, where oblations are offered at the lotus feet of Vishnu in a celebrated temple. Because the Lord is thus pleased with the devotion service of the descendants, by His grace He liberates the conditioned souls of forefathers who do not have gross bodies, and He favors them to again receive a gross body for development of spiritual advancement. Unfortunately, by the influence of Maya, the conditioned soul employs the body he gets for sense gratification, forgetting that such an occupation may lead him to return to an invisible body. The devotee of the Lord, or one who is in Krishna consciousness, however, does not need to perform such ritualistic ceremonies as Shraddha, because he is always pleasing the Supreme Lord. Therefore, his fathers and ancestors who might have been in difficulty are automatically relieved. The vivid example is Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj requested Lord Narasimhadeva to deliver his sinful father, who had so many times offended the lotus feet of the Lord. The Lord replied that in a family where a Vaishnava like Prahlad is born, not only his father, but his father's father and their fathers up to 14th father back are all automatically delivered. The conclusion, therefore, is that Krishna consciousness is the sum total of all good work for the family, for society, and for all living entities. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the author says that the person fully conversant with Krishna consciousness does not perform any rituals, because he knows that simply by serving Krishna in full Krishna consciousness, all rituals are automatically performed. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Some more are there. We'll do next. Om, that's over. So, Brahma continues his different kinds of filling the the material world with different kinds of creations of different living entities. The souls are already there in the previous kalpa. The souls, wherever their karma is, they have been suppressed and they go into Mahavishnu's body, and when again creation comes forth, there are different kinds of living entities fit for taking different kinds of bodies. So accordingly, Brahma's job is to give them different kinds of body and populate this. That is a secondary creation. So now after having created the Asuras, then the Gandharvas, the Apsaras. We heard this story of the Asuras. Their nature was to attack Brahma himself. Now here Prabhupada says this Gandharvas and Apsaras. Gandharvas are entities who are so expert in music and singing, and Apsaras are dancing, expert in dancing, and they are heavenly beings. And Prabhupada is explaining here that if the dancing and music is engaged only for sense gratification, then it is to be accepted as demoniac. The same music and dancing, when employed in glorifying the Supreme Lord as kirtana, are transcendental, and they bring about a life completely fit for spiritual enjoyment. So many different kinds of sense engagement, senses and sense object, they are considered to be rajasic, and at the same time, when the same thing is engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord, it becomes transcendental and it is used for pleasing the Supreme Lord. So that is an exemption, but normally that is an exemption for those. Because why it's an exemption? Because the material world is meant for karmis, it is meant for them to enjoy. So the material world is designed, the what is the norm in the material world is sense gratification. Subtle to gross. subtle, predominantly subtle in the heavenly kingdom and predominantly gross in tamasic planets. So, by going through these different descriptions, one basically sees that how the three gunas are the one that actually impel the living entity into different kinds of sense gratification, whether subtle or gross, whether fine or gross, whether the heavenly pleasures or tamasic pleasures. They're all, the root cause of that is guna. The soul is pure, and Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Karanam guna sangasya. By associating with guna, one actually gets into details of sense gratification. Detailed sense or specific sense gratification. We saw how the demons were attracted to the details of the beauty of a female. So because they are influenced by the mode of passion, therefore they run after this kind of sense gratification. Each guna, let's analyze this, karanam guna sangasya, that the cause of the activities of the living entities in this material world is the association of the living entity with the guna. Just like if you put yourself in water, then you will get wet. If you put yourself in fire, you will get burnt. If you put yourself in a freezer, you will freeze. So these gunas are like that. Gunas are the environment around the jiva. So if you really want something desirable, some kind of activity it is desirable, the easiest way, instead of forcing oneself from one activity to another activity, that is one way, no doubt. Other way is there a way by which we can directly move from one guna to another guna? The normal way is, there are set of activities which is called tamasic, set of activities which is called rajasic, set of activity which is called sattvic. So you want to move from rajasic to sattvic, then you have to train your mind to engage in activities that are recommended to move from rajasic to sattvic. Do's and don'ts are there. So you change your lifestyle accordingly, you will move from there. That is actually the normal process by which the soul evolves or goes towards higher gunas. There is another way, in other words, activities attract the gunas. New kind of activities, sattvic activities attract sattvic gunas. But also sattvic guna will induce sattvic activity. Rajaguna will, in fact that is more fundamental, karanam guna sangasya. The rajasic guna, rajoguna will induce rajasic activities. Tamoguna will induce the living entity to do tamasic activities. So if we don't want tamasic activities, then we have to move out of the influence of tamoguna. So Krishna consciousness is a direct method of handling the gunas rather than handling the activities, forcing out the activities. When the gunas are changed, the activities also will change. As I said, the activities can attract the gunas and the gunas can induce activities which appropriate. Sattva guna can induce sattvic activities. Sattvic activities by themselves can attract sattva guna. So the process of Krishna consciousness that we are following is handling things at the guna level. That is why in our instruction, very detailed sense gratification, how to control sense gratification, how to control sex desire, this thing, all these details are not given to us. Why the details are not given to us? If detailed knowledge is given, then we could use technology and we should, some spiritual technology, and we could come out of it. In Krishna consciousness, that is not required. Why? When you chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, when you take Krishna Prasadam, when you associate with the deities, when you hear the transcendental knowledge, when you hear Srimad Bhagavatam every day, you will actually move from lower guna to higher guna. And your sense of pleasure will also move from tamoguna to rajoguna, from rajoguna to sattoguna. It will move. Your faith will move from rajoguna, from different levels of different kinds of gunas have different kinds of faith. That will also move. So Krishna consciousness is something that we are operating at the root of the disease. So actually it is such a big relief. Unlike impersonalists, they have to control their senses, they have to, so many techniques they have to use, all the kind of things. But as far as devotion service is concerned, why we are not indulging, why we are not so much engaged in all those things? Because our process is, when you chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. When you do japa, this Krishna Nama is the Vishuddha Sattva. It is not only Sattva, it is the source of Sattva, it is Vishuddha Sattva, the pure goodness. So, Karanam Guna Sangasya, okay, right? You Sangha, you associate with Krishna. Our soul has to touch Krishna. And Krishna says, Kalikale Nama Rupa Avatara, he is come as an incarnation and is a reservoir of Vishuddha Sattva. He is a reservoir of pure goodness. Pavitram, completely pure he is. So by associating, by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, by continuously associating, we get the influence of this transcendental goodness. And when that influence comes, then there is slowly there is a tasting of the pleasure in that guna. Every guna has a pleasure. The pleasure in Vishuddha Sattva is bhakti. There is a pleasure in Sattva of this material world also. The pleasure in Rajoguna. People who are influenced by Sattva, they won't like this rajasic pleasure. They won't like. It is not that they are forcefully restrained. Or Brahmanical people are forcefully there, don't want sense gratification. Yeah, normal sense gratification they don't want. But they have another subtle sense gratification. So naturally they don't want this kind of sense gratification. Look at the guna. They ensure that by their Brahmanical practice, they ensure that they maintain themselves by they see that they want to get influenced by the Sattva guna. So, for a devotee, pleasure management means managing gunas. Or anything. Managing sense gratification, controlling the senses, self-control means what is the system? Managing the gunas. By process of devotional service, engaging our activities, all our senses for the pleasure of the Lord. So we should have faith in that direct process. In fact, if you think of the indirect process, or if you think of the regular process, especially in this Kali Yuga, a person will get bewildered. How am I going to control my senses? Everywhere there is so much sense object and it is bombarding my senses. I don't think any hope is there. There has to be some kind of a solution not a normal solution will not work. It becomes very scary. That no, I cannot give up sense gratification. Impossible. How can I ever, this whole life I'll go on like this? I have no hope. Senses are so powerful. But one should immediately think that no, that is not my process. It is correct. It is impossible to control in this Kali Yuga the senses in that particular way. The way to control the senses is to move to a guna which is devotional service, Vishuddha, higher guna. And the process for moving to higher guna is the process of association. Like Prabhupada gives, iron put in the fire, it becomes red hot because the energy is transferred. Similarly, in the same way, if we associate ourselves with the fire of Satchidananda by chanting Hare Krishna and Prasadam and all the different items of the Lord's merciful manifestation in this material world, if we touch Him with our different senses and including our activity, if we act for Him, then automatically one just shifts up. That's why devotees completely, their life changes. After they start chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, life completely changes. How can it suddenly change like that? And then it takes time. Slowly, if one continues the association, if one leaves the association, gone. If one doesn't chant his round, is gone. Her senses will completely swallow the person. Mind will go crazy. If one does not take prasadam only, again, there is no doubt about it. In Kali Yuga, nobody has that qualification like that, because Kali Yuga, the environment is like that. Right from our birth, we are born in a unfavorable guna. We are brought up in unfavorable guna. We are taught in schools which are unfavorable guna. So our samskara, we are samskara less. Everybody, that's why everybody is a Shudra. We are samskara less. That means we don't have an asset of samskara. Those who have an asset of samskara can have some hope of having some, built-in character by which he resists sense gratification. Practically no character, no spiritual character of self-control is taught in our schools, in our colleges. We are all grown without that idea of self-control at all. So where is a question of evolving or moving up through that path? Not possible. Yes, as a secondary matter, we talk about senses, controlling the senses. We should do it, of course. We should try to control our senses, all those things. But that is not, you are not doing standalone trying to control the senses. That is over and above the first medicine, that is to move to higher gunas, to spiritualize our soul by associating with the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and devotional service. Then, naturally, yantra is there. We have to have self-control. It becomes easy. Self-control becomes easy. To desist from activities which are rajasic and tamasic becomes easy. And to adopt sattvic activities, it becomes easy. Otherwise, it becomes impossible. So that is our faith. The devotee's faith is in this direct process of devotion service, by which management happens by moving our influence. As I said, if you put yourself in a freezer, you will freeze. You put yourself in water, you will get wet. You put yourself in fire, you will burn. The same way, our faith is in putting ourselves in Vishuddha Sattva, and that is available. Krishna's incarnation, Krishna's quality. Therefore, whole process is to evolve our soul to point of developing Krishna's quality. We are one in quality with God. So develop that Krishna's quality. That is the process of Krishna consciousness. So much classes we discussed about brahmacharya in this connection. Brahmacharya, attraction to opposite sex. Those are all details. Those details, the solutions are not also given. Only description is given. Solution is not given in the sense in the Bhagavatam immediately. Okay, because now this is how the demons became attracted. But here Karanam is given. It is the mode of passion is explained. So go to the root of it in the Bhagavatam. By hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, we actually move to the higher gunas. And that is how we move away from that. There is no struggle. If we have to struggle for sense gratification, then modes are still pushing. So better we chant more. If there is a struggle, then chant more and try to move from the lower modes to the higher modes. Our technique is there to associate with Krishna so that the lower gunas do not push us. जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय.